Welcome back to the channel Rare Coins All World. Today, we're going to talk about something truly special, the 1990 United States 5-cent nickel. You might think, it's just a nickel, right? Well, think again. This seemingly simple coin could actually be worth far more than its face value, and in some cases, a lot more. Stick with me until the end of this video because you're about to discover how this humble nickel could be worth a small fortune. Let's take a trip back to 1990 for a moment. The United States was going through a transformative period. From the rise of technology to the end of the Cold War, 1990 was a year filled with historic moments. While these major events were taking place, the U.S. Mint was busy at work, producing millions of 5-cent nickels. Like most coins, these nickels were intended for everyday circulation, but little did anyone know, among those millions, some would end up being extremely rare and valuable. Now, let's get into why the 1990 nickel stands out among all the other nickels minted throughout history. At first glance, it looks like just another coin, a familiar portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse, and the Monticello building on the reverse. But here's where it gets interesting. Some of these nickels have errors or characteristics that make them worth far more than you'd expect. These are the coins that collectors dream about, and if you're lucky enough to find one, it could turn out to be a real treasure point. One of the most exciting things to look for in a 1990 nickel is the presence of minting errors. Coins are struck under intense pressure, and sometimes, something goes wrong. These errors, while rare, make certain coins much more valuable and desirable to collectors. Let's explore the errors that can turn a simple 1990 nickel into a collector's dream. First up is the double die error. This is one of the most sought-after mistakes in coin collecting. A double die error occurs when the coin is struck twice by the same die, resulting in a duplicated image. In the case of the 1990 nickel, this could mean you'll see double images of "Liberty" or "In God We Trust" on the coin. These double strikes are rare, and the more pronounced the doubling, the higher the value of the coin. If you happen to find a 1990 nickel with a noticeable double die error, you could be looking at something worth significantly more than face value. Another error that could make your 1990 nickel worth a lot of money is the off-center strike. This occurs when the coin is not properly aligned in the minting press, causing part of the coin's design to be missing or misaligned. For example, you might find a nickel where Thomas Jefferson's portrait is only partially visible or where the date and other details are cut off. Off-center strikes are particularly valuable because each one is unique. No two are ever the same. If you find an off-center 1990 nickel, it could command a much higher price than a standard nickel. Let's also talk about the clipped planchet error. This is a fascinating mistake that happens when the metal blank, or planchet, used to strike the coin is cut incorrectly. This results in a coin with a portion of its edge missing or uneven. A clipped planchet nickel will have a distinctive, irregular shape, and sometimes part of the design is missing as well. These errors are relatively rare and highly collectible. If you're lucky enough to find a 1990 nickel with a clipped planchet, you could be holding on to something very valuable. In addition to these minting errors, it's important to note that the condition of the coin plays a huge role in its value. Like most collectibles, the better the condition, the higher the price. A 1990 nickel that has been well preserved and remains in uncirculated or near perfect condition can be worth much more than a coin that has seen heavy circulation. Coins that are free from scratches, discoloration, or signs of wear are highly prized in the coin collecting world. Now, you might be wondering, what kind of money are we talking about here? Well, if you find a 1990 nickel in excellent condition or with one of these rare minting errors, you could be looking at a significant increase in value. Some of these coins, depending on the rarity and error, can fetch as much as $52,000. Yes, you heard that right, $52,000 for a single 1990 nickel. Of course, not every 1990 nickel will fetch such an incredible price, but it's still a powerful reminder of how rare and valuable coins can be. The key is to carefully inspect each nickel you come across, especially if it looks like it has some unusual characteristics or if it's in exceptional condition. If you find something that fits the bill, it could be worth a lot more than just 5 cents. So, what's the takeaway here? The 1990 United States 5-cent nickel is a perfect example of how seemingly ordinary coins can become valuable treasures with the right characteristics. If you're a coin collector or just someone who enjoys finding rare and interesting pieces, make sure to keep your eyes peeled for those 1990 nickels with minting errors or those in pristine condition. You never know when you might stumble upon a coin worth thousands of dollars. Today, we're going to talk about a coin that might look simple at first glance but could end up being a real treasure, the 1985 United States 5-cent nickel. Now, I know what you're thinking, it's just a nickel, right? But hold on a second, because you may be overlooking one of the most intriguing and potentially valuable coins in your pocket. Let's take a moment to set the stage. The year 1985 may seem like it was just yesterday, but in the world of coin collecting, it was a pivotal year for the U.S. Mint. It was a time when the country was experiencing technological advancements, a booming economy, and shifting political landscapes. While all of this was unfolding, the U.S. Mint was hard at work producing millions of nickels for circulation. Among them, some would become prized collectibles, worth far more than their 5-cent face value. So, what makes the 1985 nickel so special? Well, the answer lies in the rarity and the minting errors that make this coin so highly sought after by collectors. In the world of coin collecting, it's not just the age of the coin that adds value, it's the condition, the rarity, and most importantly, the errors that can occur during the minting process. Let me tell you, the 1985 nickel has some pretty fascinating errors that can send its value skyrocketing. First up, we have the double die error. This is one of the most famous and exciting minting errors in the world of coin collecting. So, what exactly is a double die error? It happens when the coin is struck by the same die more than once, causing the design to appear doubled. This can result in a distinct and noticeable shift in the text or imagery on the coin. For example, you might notice that the word "liberty" or "in God we trust" is duplicated or slightly shifted. These kinds of errors are rare and incredibly valuable. If you come across a 1985 nickel with a double die error, you might just have a coin worth a lot more than just 5 cents. Next, let's talk about the off-center strike error. This is another minting flaw that can make a coin much more valuable. An off-center strike happens when the nickel is not properly aligned in the minting press. This causes part of the design to be cut off or shifted to the side. It's an irregularity that makes each off-center strike unique, and collectors love them for that reason. If you find a 1985 nickel with an off-center strike, you've got something that's far more interesting and valuable than a regular nickel, but that's not all. The 1985 nickel is also prone to the clipped planchet error. This happens when the metal blank, known as a planchet, is improperly cut before being struck by the die. As a result, part of the coin is missing, giving it a jagged or irregular edge. Clipped planchet coins are fascinating because they are a true mistake from the minting process. These coins are highly collectible because of their unique and unusual appearance, and if you find one of these 1985 nickels with a clipped planchet, you could have a rare gem on your hands. In addition to these minting errors, the condition of the coin plays a major role in determining its value. A nickel that has been well preserved and shows little to no wear from circulation can fetch a much higher price than one that has been used and damaged over the years. The better the condition, the more valuable the coin becomes. For example, if you happen to find a 1985 nickel that has been kept in pristine, uncirculated condition, you could be sitting on something special. Now, let's talk about the big question: how much is a 1985 nickel actually worth? Well, if you find one with a rare minting error like a double die, off-center strike, or clipped planchet, and it's in excellent condition, it could be worth a staggering amount. Hold on to your seat, because a 1985 nickel in pristine condition or with one of these valuable errors could be worth as much as $54,000. Yes, you heard that right, $54,000 for a single 1985 nickel. Of course, not every 1985 nickel will fetch that kind of price. But it's an incredible reminder of how a seemingly ordinary coin can have extraordinary value. When it comes to coin collecting, rarity and condition are key factors in determining the worth of a coin. And when you add a minting error into the mix, you've got something that's truly special and worth a lot more than its face value. So, what's the takeaway here? The 1985 United States 5-cent nickel is a perfect example of how coins that seem like common, everyday items can actually turn out to be rare treasures. Whether you're a seasoned coin collector or just someone who enjoys searching through pocket change, make sure to keep your eyes open for these valuable and unique nickels. With the right minting error or in great condition, you could have a coin worth thousands of dollars right at your fingertips. Today, we're going to be talking about a coin that could be hiding in your pocket change, the 1979 United States 5-cent nickel. At first glance, it might seem like just another ordinary nickel, but trust me, there's much more to this coin than meets the eye. The 1979 nickel is more than just a piece of pocket change. It's a coin that could be worth a lot more than you might think, thanks to certain rare features and minting errors that have turned this seemingly simple nickel into a coveted prize among collectors. If you're someone who enjoys the thrill of finding rare coins or just loves the world of numismatics, you'll want to stick around for this one. By the end of this video, you might just be searching through your change to see if you've got a hidden gem in your hands. Let's take a quick trip back to 1979. It was a time of change in the United States, politically, socially, and culturally. The 1970s were coming to an end, and the world was moving into a new era. Meanwhile, the U.S. Mint was busy at work producing millions of nickels to be used in everyday transactions. Most of these 1979 nickels were used in circulation and eventually wore out, but among them were a few that escaped the usual wear and tear and others that were minted with rare errors. These coins are the ones that could potentially turn out to be worth a small fortune. What makes the 1979 nickel so valuable? Well, it comes down to a few important factors: rarity, minting errors, and the overall condition of the coin. Let's break these down. Point 1: of the most exciting things to look for when it comes to rare coins is minting errors. When a coin is struck, it's supposed to be a perfect replication of the design on the die. But sometimes, mistakes happen. These mistakes can result in errors that make a coin much more valuable. And guess what? The 1979 nickel has a few notable minting errors that can make it worth a lot more than its 5-cent value. Point 1: of the most famous errors you'll want to look for in a 1979 nickel is the double die error. This occurs when the coin is struck more than once by the same die, causing parts of the design to appear doubled or misaligned. On a 1979 nickel, this could mean that the word "Liberty" or "In God We Trust" appears doubled, which is a surefire way to make the coin more valuable. These double die errors are highly sought after by collectors because they're rare and show a clear mistake in the minting process. If you happen to find a 1979 nickel with this type of error, you could be looking at a much higher value than a regular, unblemished nickel. Another error that could make your 1979 nickel stand out is an off-center strike. This happens when the coin is not properly aligned in the minting machine, causing part of the design to be missing or off-center. Imagine a nickel where part of Thomas Jefferson's portrait is cut off or the date is misaligned. Off-center strikes are valuable because they're unique and very different from a normal coin. Every off-center strike is different, which adds to their appeal among collectors. But wait, there's more. Another minting error to watch out for is the clipped planchet error. This happens when the metal blank used to make the coin is cut incorrectly, leaving part of the coin missing. The result is a coin that has a ragged edge or a missing section. Clipped planchet coins are particularly interesting to collectors because they are a true mistake from the minting process. These irregularly shaped coins can be very valuable, especially if they're from a well-known year like 1979. It's also important to keep in mind that the condition of the coin plays a major role in determining its value. Like any collectible item, coins in pristine condition are worth more than those that show signs of wear and tear. A 1979 nickel that has been kept in excellent condition, free from scratches or discoloration, is far more valuable than one that has been circulating for decades. The higher the grade of the coin, the higher its price tag. A nickel that has been preserved in uncirculated condition is a rare find and will always fetch a premium price. Now, you're probably wondering, how much can a 1979 nickel actually be worth? Well, if you're lucky enough to find one with a rare minting error, or if it's in perfect, uncirculated condition, you could be looking at a value much higher than 5 cents. Depending on the era and the condition of the coin, a 1979 nickel could be worth as much as $49,000. Yes, you heard me right, $49,000 for a single 1979 nickel. Of course, not every 1979 nickel will be worth this much. But for coin collectors and enthusiasts, the value of these rare coins is a reminder of how much hidden potential can lie within everyday items. A little mistake during the minting process or an uncirculated coin in perfect condition can turn a humble 5-cent piece into a treasure worth thousands. So, what's the bottom line? The 1979 United States 5-cent nickel is a great example of how coins can become valuable treasures due to minting errors, condition, and rarity. Whether you're a coin collector or just someone who enjoys looking through pocket change, make sure to keep your eyes peeled for those 1979 nickels with unique features or in great condition. You never know when you might come across a nickel worth much more than you could ever imagine. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most intriguing pieces of U.S. currency, the 1964 United States 5-cent nickel. Now, you might be thinking, it's just a nickel, right? But hold on, because what if I told you that this seemingly ordinary coin could be worth a staggering amount of money? That's right, there's more to this little 5-cent piece than meets the eye, and by the end of this video, you'll be eager to check your pocket change for a potential treasure. Before we get into the specifics, let's set the scene a bit. The year 1964 was a year of significant historical events in the United States. It was a time of change, from political shifts to cultural movements. And while all of this was happening, the U.S. Mint was busy producing millions of nickels for circulation. But among those millions, there are some very special 1964 nickels that have been found to have rare qualities, making them highly sought after by collectors. What exactly makes the 1964 nickel so unique and valuable? It all comes down to a combination of factors: rarity, errors in the minting process, and the overall condition of the coin. Let's start by talking about the most exciting aspect, those minting errors that can turn a simple nickel into a collector's dream. One of the most famous errors you should be on the lookout for is the double die error. This is where the coin is struck by the die more than once, causing the design to appear doubled. On a 1964 nickel, this could mean that the word "Liberty" or "In God We Trust" appears with a noticeable duplication, creating a unique look that collectors absolutely crave. Double die errors are incredibly rare, and when they're found, they can significantly increase the value of the coin. But wait, there's more. Another minting error that could make your 1964 nickel worth a lot more is an off-center strike. This happens when the coin isn't properly aligned in the minting press, causing part of the design to be missing or misaligned. Imagine a nickel where part of Thomas Jefferson's portrait is cut off, or the date is too far to one side. These off-center strikes are a big deal in the coin world because they're completely unique. Each off-center nickel is different, and collectors love that one-of-a-kind feel. If you find one of these misaligned 1964 nickels, it could be worth a small fortune. Now, there's yet another minting error that could make your 1964 nickel highly valuable, and that's the clipped planchet error. This occurs when the metal blank, called a planchet, is improperly cut before it's struck, leaving part of the coin missing. This could result in a jagged or uneven edge, or even sections of the design being cut off. Clipped planchet coins are incredibly rare and highly collectible because they're a direct result of a mistake at the mint. These errors are so distinctive that they are highly sought after by collectors looking for something truly unique. Aside from errors, the condition of the coin plays a major role in determining its value. A well-preserved 1964 nickel in excellent condition is far more valuable than one that's been heavily worn down through years of circulation. Coins in uncirculated or near-perfect condition are considered much rarer and are highly prized by collectors. So, if you happen to find a 1964 nickel that's been well-preserved and is free from scratches or discoloration, you've got a valuable coin on your hands. Now, here's the big question: how much could your 1964 nickel actually be worth? Well, the value of these rare coins can vary depending on the type of minting error and the overall condition of the coin. But in the right circumstances, a 1964 nickel could be worth a jaw-dropping $58,000. Yes, you heard that correctly, $58,000 for a single 1964 nickel. You might be wondering how this is possible for a coin that was originally worth just 5 cents. Well, when you factor in the rarity of certain minting errors, the condition of the coin, and the demand among collectors, the value can escalate to impressive levels. Double die errors, off-center strikes, and clipped planchet errors all add significant value to a coin. And when combined with excellent preservation, you've got a nickel that's worth far more than its original value. Of course, not every 1964 nickel will be worth thousands of dollars. But for the collectors out there who are on the lookout for these rare gems, the 1964 nickel represents the perfect example of how a seemingly ordinary coin can turn into a valuable treasure with the right combination of factors. It's a reminder that the world of coin collecting is full of surprises, and you never know when you might stumble upon something incredible. So, whether you're an experienced collector or just starting out, the 1964 United States 5-cent nickel should definitely be on your radar. Keep an eye out for those rare minting errors and always check the condition of your coins, especially if you've got a 1964 nickel in your collection. With the potential for finding a coin worth $58,000, it's worth taking the time to look. Today, we're going to talk about a coin that could be sitting in your collection right now, the 1973 United States 5-cent nickel. You might think, it's just a regular nickel, right? Well, hold on to your seat, because this seemingly common coin could actually be worth thousands of dollars, and it has everything to do with its rarity, minting errors, and its incredible condition. The year 1973 was quite a memorable one in the US. It was a time of cultural change and political shifts, and while the country was going through its transformations, the US Mint was busy at work producing millions of coins, including the 5-cent nickels. But not all 1973 nickels are created equal. Among those that were produced, there are a few very special ones that stand out due to unique characteristics that make them far more valuable than your everyday nickel. So, what exactly makes the 1973 nickel so special? It comes down to a combination of factors, primarily the minting errors that occurred during production. You see, coins are produced through a process where dies press the design into the metal blanks, but sometimes, things don't go quite as planned. These mistakes or errors can make a coin incredibly rare and desirable to collectors. And trust me, the 1973 nickel has a few key minting errors that you'll want to keep your eye out for. Let's start with one of the most exciting minting errors, the double die error. This happens when a coin is struck by the die more than once, causing the design to appear doubled or misaligned. For example, on a 1973 nickel, you might see the word Liberty or In God We Trust duplicated, or perhaps parts of Thomas Jefferson's portrait might look blurry or double-struck. These types of errors are extremely rare and make the coin much more valuable. Imagine discovering a 1973 nickel with that kind of error. It could be worth a lot more than just 5 cents. Another minting error you'll want to look out for is an off-center strike. When the coin is not perfectly aligned in the minting press, parts of the design can be shifted, resulting in a coin that has a missing section or an uneven design. For instance, part of Jefferson's face or the date might be off-center or completely missing. Off-center strikes are fascinating because each one is unique, which is why they're so highly sought after by collectors. If you find a 1973 nickel with this type of error, it could be a real prize, but that's not all. There's also the clipped planchet error to keep an eye out for. This happens when the metal blank that the coin is made from is improperly cut, causing part of the coin to be missing, often leaving a ragged edge or a portion of the design incomplete. A clipped planchet coin stands out because of its distinctive look, making it especially valuable to collectors who are looking for something rare and unique. If your 1973 nickel has a clipped planchet, it's definitely worth a second look. Now, we all know that the condition of a coin plays a major role in its value. If you have a 1973 nickel that's been well preserved and remains in excellent or near mint condition, it's worth far more than a coin that has been worn down over the years. A coin's grade is determined by how well it's been kept over time, and coins that have been protected from scratches, discoloration, and wear are considered rarer and more valuable. So, if you find a 1973 nickel that's in uncirculated condition, don't be surprised if it's worth far more than the face value. Now, I'm sure you're wondering how much a 1973 nickel could be worth if it has one of these rare minting errors or is in exceptional condition. Well, the truth is, it could be worth a shocking $51,000. Yes, you heard that right, $51,000 for a single 1973 nickel. That's not a typo. With the right minting error or in pristine condition, this coin could fetch a value that far exceeds its 5-cent face value. And while not every 1973 nickel will be worth that much, if you happen to come across one of these rare and valuable specimens, you could be sitting on a small fortune. What makes this even more exciting is that these types of errors aren't something you find every day. Double die errors, off-center strikes, and clipped planchets are all very rare occurrences, which is why they command such high prices in the world of coin collecting. And as collectors continue to search for these elusive coins, the value of a 1973 nickel with a minting error only increases over time. So, what should you do if you think you found a valuable 1973 nickel? First and foremost, make sure to carefully inspect the coin for any of the errors we've discussed, like double die errors, off-center strikes, or clipped planchets. If the coin appears to have any of these rare characteristics, take it to a professional appraiser or a reputable coin dealer to get it evaluated. Even if you don't think you found a rare error, a 1973 nickel in excellent condition could still be worth more than its face value, so it's always worth checking. As a coin lover, it's thrilling to know that hidden treasures could be waiting in your pocket change or your collection. The 1973 nickel serves as a perfect example of how rare errors and excellent condition can transform an ordinary coin into a highly coveted collectible. Thank you so much for joining me today and learning all about the 1973 United States 5-cent nickel. I hope you found this video both informative and exciting. If you enjoyed this content and want to learn more about valuable and rare coins, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our future videos. Keep hunting for rare coins, and who knows, your next great find could be just a pocket away. Happy collecting!